put my number out on her page that got 10 million followers. She did that. Putting everybody in our business, letting them know that me and Pap was together.
You're a piece of shit, Papoose. You really are. You have turned into a piece of shit. This right here, the gambling, the failures that you've had in your career or whatever that didn't pan out how you wanted to.
It all started like one of those moments that's supposed to look good on the surface. You know, the kind where someone sits down for an interview, smiles, speaks confidently, and tries to show the world that everything in their life is going exactly right. That was the energy going in. But what actually happened? It slowly turned into something uncomfortable, something people couldn't stop talking about. When she began speaking openly about her relationship, it didn't feel like a big deal at first. In fact, it almost sounded like she was proud, like she wanted people to see that she had someone who cared for her, someone who showed up for her, someone who handled things. But the more she talked, the more the tone started to shift. It wasn't just admiration anymore. It started sounding like something else. She began mentioning the things he does for her, paying bills, taking care of responsibilities, covering major expenses. At first, it sounded like appreciation, but then something subtle crept in. The way she said it, the way she emphasized it, it didn't sit right with people. It felt like she was revealing too much without realizing it. And then came the part that really changed everything. She shared a story about a birthday celebration she had planned for him. It sounded playful at first. A game, 2 choices, one worth 1,000, the other worth 10,000. Simple, right? But when he picked the wrong one and realized what he missed out on, she said he got genuinely upset, not just jokingly upset, actually bothered. That moment right there made people pause, because now the image she had been building started to crack. Just minutes ago, she was saying he handles everything financially, that he pays for big things, covers major costs, takes care of her lifestyle. But now, suddenly, he's upset over missing out on 10,000. People couldn't ignore that contradiction. And it didn't stop there. When she realized how it might sound, she tried to fix it. She started adding more details, almost like she was trying to clean up the story in real time. She said he pays her mortgage, he covers her car payments, he handles insurance, flights, basically everything. But instead of making things better, it made them worse, because now it felt like she was over-explaining, like she was trying too hard to prove something. And when someone tries that hard, people start asking questions, real questions. If everything is as perfect as you say, why does it need so much explaining? That's when the energy shifted completely. What was supposed to be a moment of confidence started turning into something messy. People began picking apart every detail, every word, every contradiction. And once that started, there was no stopping it. Then came the bigger issue, the one that had already been quietly sitting in the background this whole time. He wasn't fully free, and people knew it. You can say separated all you want, but in the eyes of the public, separated is not the same as divorced. There's still a connection, still unfinished business. Still a situation that isn't completely closed. And the more she spoke about the relationship like it was something solid and secure, the more people pushed back. Because to them, it didn't look solid at all. It looked complicated. It looked unfinished. And most of all, it looked like something that shouldn't be celebrated so openly. But instead of pulling back, she leaned in even harder. She kept talking about it, kept defending it, kept presenting it like something people should admire. And that's when people started to feel like this wasn't confidence anymore. It felt like pride. And pride has a way of turning situations upside down when you least expect it. Because the more she tried to show that everything was under control, the more it started to look like it wasn't. And what happened next only made that even clearer. After the interview ended, people expected things to calm down. Usually after a moment like that, the noise fades a little, the conversation slows down. But this time, it did the opposite. Clips started circulating almost immediately, not just from the interview, but from what happened after. There was a moment captured of them walking together. Nothing dramatic, no argument, no loud scene, just walking. But somehow that simple moment said more than anything she had said in the interview. He was ahead of her. Not by a little, but enough for people to notice. A few feet of distance, no effort to slow down, no turning back, no checking on her. And she was behind him, trying to keep up, stepping carefully, especially in heels. That alone made people uncomfortable, because when people look at couples, they don't just listen to words, they watch behavior, and behavior doesn't lie. The way two people move together, the way they stay close, the way they interact without speaking, it says everything. And in that moment, it didn't look like two people in sync. It looked distant, cold, even. There was another small moment too. He shifted direction slightly, moving away instead of staying beside her. She glanced at him. Just a quick look, but it was enough. People caught it. And once again, it added to the growing feeling that something wasn't right. Now, the conversation wasn't just about what she said. It was about what people were seeing. And what they were seeing didn't match the story she was telling. Then, just when things couldn't get more complicated, something else happened. A concert. It should have been a normal night. Music, performances, people enjoying themselves. But somehow, even that became part of the story. She wasn't the focus this time. Someone else was there, posting, sharing moments, being seen. And then unexpectedly, he posted too. Same night, same place. That's when people really started connecting the dots, because now it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt intentional, and people began questioning everything again. If things are moving forward like she says, why does it look like the past is still very much present? Comments flooded in. People weren't confused anymore. They were skeptical. And she noticed. You could tell by how quickly she started responding, jumping into comments, sending messages, trying to explain what people were seeing, trying to control the narrative again. But here's the problem. When you respond emotionally, it rarely helps. And that's exactly what happened. Instead of calming things down, her responses made everything feel more chaotic, more defensive, more uncertain. It felt like she was trying to convince people, but also maybe trying to convince herself. And that's when people really started paying attention, because this wasn't the first time. A pattern was forming. Every time she spoke highly of the relationship, something would happen right after that, shifted the energy completely. First comes the confidence, then the reaction, then the explanation, then the backlash, over and over again. And once people notice a pattern, they can't unsee it. It became predictable, and at the same time, more intense, because now people weren't just watching for entertainment. They were watching to see what would happen next. And deep down, it started to feel like something bigger was building, something that couldn't be controlled with words anymore. At this point, it wasn't just about a relationship anymore. It had turned into something much larger. Something that involved image, perception, and the way people present themselves to the world. Because the more she tried to show strength, the more people started questioning whether it was real. Confidence doesn't usually need constant explanation. It shows on its own, in actions, in calmness, in consistency. But this situation felt different. It felt like every few days there was something new to explain, something new to defend, something new to clarify. And that kind of energy doesn't feel stable. It feels forced. There was also the way she talked about success, about money, about what she has and what others don't. On its own, that's not a problem. People celebrate their achievements all the time. But when it's repeated over and over, especially in the middle of a messy situation, it starts to come across differently. Instead of inspiring, it feels like proving. And when someone feels the need to prove something constantly, people start wondering why. Because if everything is truly solid, you don't need to convince anyone. It shows. And that's where things started to slip. Even her motivational message, which was actually powerful, got lost in everything else. She talked about giving your best, about pushing through challenges, about showing up even when it's hard. She shared her experience of fighting even when she wasn't in perfect condition and still giving everything she had. That part was real. That part people respected. But it got overshadowed by everything surrounding it. Because while she was preaching effort and focus, her personal situation was playing out in a way that felt unfocused and chaotic. And people couldn't ignore that contrast. Then there's the biggest issue of all, the one that keeps coming back no matter how much it's avoided, the relationship itself. No matter how it's explained, no matter how it's framed, one fact doesn't change. It's not fully resolved. And as long as that remains true, people will keep questioning it. You can't rush public perception. You can't talk your way out of it. People believe what they see over what they hear. And right now, what they're seeing doesn't match what they're being told. That's why every new explanation feels weaker than the last. That's why every attempt to fix things seems to make them worse. Because the foundation itself isn't clear. And when the foundation isn't clear, everything built on top of it feels unstable. At the center of all this is pride. Not the quiet kind, the loud kind, the kind that pushes you to prove a point, the kind that makes you say more than you should, the kind that turns private moments into public discussions. And once something becomes public, you can't take it back. People will analyze it, question it, interpret it in ways you never expected. That's exactly what's happening now. Every detail is being examined. Every moment is being replayed. Every action is being compared to every word. And the more it continues, the harder it becomes to control. Because at this point, it's not just her story anymore. It belongs to the public too. And the public has already started forming its own conclusions. Some believe it's real. Others think it's forced. Some see confidence. Others see insecurity. But one thing everyone agrees on, something doesn't add up. And until that changes, the conversation isn't going anywhere. So now the real question isn't what she says next. It's what actually happens next. Because words can only carry a story so far. After that, reality takes over.